Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hope everybody's doing well. Today is going to be the top 10 best pack-a-punched weapons to use in Black Ops 6 Zombies. Now, this is going to be an all-encompassing list for BO6, so that means wonder weapons are going to be included here. And the thing that's important is that pack-a-punching a weapon in Black Ops 6 Zombies, obviously you can not only build your weapon through your loadout and add attachments to it to kind of change the functionality, but the simple act of pack-a-punching a weapon can give it some additional special quirks that are unique to that gun. So today are going to be the best weapons overall to pack-a-punch in Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Zombies. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, let's get into it. So coming in today at our number 10 spot is going to be the Ames 85. This is essentially the Galil equivalent, and I would say that it's definitely a great gun, but it's certainly not the best in this entire list. However, it is a solid, versatile pick. It doesn't get any crazy unique benefits or quirks when pack-a-punching it, but you can build this into an unbelievably solid assault rifle that can pretty much handle almost anything in the game. It does just fine against regular zombies, elite enemies, and so on. Not massive critical damage, and honestly, in super high rounds, you're probably going to be best using something else, but for doing standard Easter egg runs on Liberty Falls or Terminus, or, you know, just trying to maybe go up to round 30 in exfil or something, the Ames is going to be a perfectly acceptable and viable option here. By far one of the stronger assault rifles that Black Ops 6 Zombies has to offer, and this is definitely a pick that you won't regret. All right, moving on to our number 9 spot is the LW3A1 sniper rifle. A somewhat strange pick, but even on its unupgraded base version, this isn't too bad because you wouldn't expect a sniper to fire this rapidly, but when you pack-a-punch it, it becomes absolutely cracked out. The rate of fire is genuinely like a marksman rifle, and this is classified technically as a full-on sniper, so you get the damage of this absolutely insane bullet gun, but the fire rate of a marksman rifle, and you can still kind of crowd control with this. The biggest upsides is that it does insane damage numbers against elite enemies and, you know, special zombies. It's not the best weapon at crowd control we've ever had, but I feel like this is an excellent secondary to pair something with that's a bit more suited for crowd control. However, the LW3A1 is an unbelievably good sniper, and weirdly enough, sniper rifles are very good in Black Ops 6. It's kind of strange, but this one is not too bad at all and certainly worth pack-punching. Okay, moving on to our number 8 spot is going to be the KSV SMG. The SMG class struggles a lot in Black Ops 6. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't been the biggest fan of most of them, but the KSV feels like it's in a league of its own, and in my opinion is one of the only SMGs really worth using. The cool thing about upgrading this one is you get an additional rate of fire. So what's very cool is that you can apply rapid fire on the weapon once you fully, you know, leveled it up and get all the attachments for it, and then you can pack-a-punch it, and then you can get a crazy rate of fire as soon as it's upgraded. Like, this thing is essentially a bullet hose. It does very good DPS as well, does very solid against elite enemies, and, you know, may not be the highest damage per bullet, but the cool thing is, the SMG class you can run around really fast with, and movement speed is a very coveted ability, obviously, or that's something you're going to want to have as an attribute, and SMGs are very light on their feet, so the KSV is a great option for mobility, and it's very good damage. You pretty much never have any downtime to reload either, so you sort of get the best of both worlds. Coming in at number 7 is going to be the XM4, and while I was really expecting a bit more out of the assault rifle class, luckily this is one of the first guns you get, and I would say that for that reason alone it's going to be pretty solid, but I was expecting it to be outdone by assault rifles that you unlock later on, but honestly I just don't think it does. In terms of raw consistency and the ability to, you know, put it up against any challenge in the game across Liberty Falls or Terminus, I just feel like overall the XM4 is going to do the best, and this significantly benefits once you've leveled it up and gotten attachments for it. Extended mags are great, even foregrips are pretty good because it can allow you to steadily hip fire and things like that. Rapid fire is also phenomenal on this weapon. I just feel like it's incredibly consistent, and I truly can't find an assault rifle that I feel like is better in just terms of overall, you know, moment-to-moment gameplay. Once again, it's not going to be the best thing for like high rounding or anything like that, but, you know, up until about rounds 35 to maybe even 40, if you're just going to be exfilling and want a solid option that's going to be good throughout the entire match, I think the XM4 is one of the best options, and it's by far one of the easiest to upgrade and use as well, because everybody's just going to have it. But moving on to our number 6 spot is a very specialized weapon. This is the SVD, and this one's cool because when you upgrade it, you not only get a slightly better rate of fire, but you get insane bullet penetration, and that becomes a big factor here, and the damage output you get should be absolutely illegal. What this does to both elite enemies and special are insane. However, it's a bit more tricky to use because this requires a little bit of skill with your aiming, and it's not as easy to use like an SMG or an AR. If you're not hitting critical points on certain enemies, it may not feel like that good of a weapon. Where this really shines is when you can hit like the arm cannons on manglers, or you can hit the direct face of an abomination or something like that. If you can hit critical points with this, then you're going to get the biggest payoff. This is really good in the Terminus boss fight as well. But the thing to consider is that this is a high risk, high reward weapon. I don't know if I would actually recommend this as your primary, depending on what you're doing. I would pair this with something that is, you know, a bit more suited for crowd control, maybe an SMG or a regular AR, and have this as your secondary, or maybe even pair it with a wonder weapon, but you need to be hitting criticals, otherwise this thing does actually kind of suck. But moving on to our number 5 spot is our first wonder weapon on the list. This is going to be the Beam Smasher. So this is found on Terminus. This is the wonder weapon here, and the thing is the Beam Smasher has a couple things going on. You can use the alternate fire to not only slow zombies down, but then they'll take increased damage from the beam that shoots later. The thing that's very interesting about this weapon is that it's particularly suited for high rounds, because once you start getting super sprinters and these zombies are moving incredibly fast, it becomes even more important to be able to slow them down. However, I do feel like the damage eventually begins to fall off to a point where in very high rounds, it's no longer quite as viable as using like score streaks, for example. But still, the ability to control the pace and slow zombies down, even to some degree, is incredibly important, and for that reason alone, I think it deserves a spot on this list. But moving on, and coming up at number 4 is the ray gun. So in Cold War, they made the ray gun easily one of the best guns in the game, and pairing it with Ring of Fire was the high round strategy in a nutshell. However, weirdly enough, in Black Ops 6 and even Modern Warfare 3 zombies, Ring of Fire is no longer anywhere to be seen. They essentially got rid of it from the game, so this changed the way that the ray gun works to some capacity, and high rounds as well. So without Ring of Fire, the ray gun isn't quite as good as it was in those games. However, it is still absolutely worth using for anything from, I don't know, rounds 1 to 50. At that point, the ray gun begins to struggle a little bit, but then you can start relying on score streaks and things like that. But the ray gun is still one of the best guns in the game. You obviously want to have PhD Flopper as well to completely negate that splash damage. That is one of the most important perks to use with this gun, obviously. But even in the face of us not having Ring of Fire anymore, the ray gun is still a solid pick. Moving on to our number 3 spot. Listen, lads, pistols in this game suck. Every single one of them are mid, except this one right here. And Unpack-a-Punched, it's, you know, no big deal. You won't even blink twice at this thing. You can find this in the spawn room in Liberty Falls, weirdly enough, and that's actually a good thing, because picking this up and then going to Pack-a-Punch it completely changes the weapon. You may notice we don't have an M1911 in zombies in Black Ops 6, and that's a problem, right? Because the Mustang and Sally is like one of the most iconic weapons, but this pistol is actually how you get Mustang and Sally. If you're just using it for the first time, it's only going to be one weapon. You're just going to get Sally. What you need to do is use this pistol for long enough and rank it up all of the way to where you've unlocked every single attachment, and then eventually at the end you'll be given the ability to use akimbo on this. So I recommend putting that on this pistol and then setting it as your zombie build, and then every time you go into like Liberty Falls or Terminus, if you come across this weapon, if you're not putting it on your loadout, you can Pack-a-Punch it, and then it immediately becomes the Mustang and Sally. And this is really good with PhD Flopper because of course it protects you from that additional splash damage that you need, and this is a great pick. Once you fully upgraded it, it's amazing against the Terminus boss fight. It's fantastic for elite and special enemies, really good for crowd control. It doesn't have an incredible amount of weakness. I actually think this is one of the better weapons in the game. The only thing is just takes a bit of work to put in to be able to use it at its full potential. This is one of my go-to weapons for sure, and again, even though it's not immediately good just Unpack-a-Punched, it becomes an absolutely different weapon when you do upgrade it. So please invest in this one, get it ranked up, and then go get yourself the Mustang and Sally. But moving on, and coming in at the number 2 spot is going to be the jet gun on Liberty Falls. The jet gun's great, and like obviously in transit it works a little different because if you break it, you have to rebuild it and everything, but technically it had unlimited ammo in that map if you didn't break it, and the same applies here. However, it won't break. You can use this sort of left trigger ability to explode and use all of your ammo, and it kills like everything around you in an AoE. This does massive damage to elites and special enemies. This virtually wipes out out anything around you, and even just the regular vacuum suction function of the jet gun is really solid as well. And having unlimited ammo in a zombies mode is a luxury that, you know, not every single weapon has. This is something that you cannot afford to trade off. For that reason alone, the jet gun is going to be one of the best guns in the game for sure, and it is absolutely worth getting on Liberty Falls every single time if you're going to be going for high rounds. And there's also a little bit of skill curve to this weapon too. You can kind of use it like the paralyzer from Black Ops 2, where you sort of more tap the trigger and allow the ammo to come back as you're using it, and kind of extend its lifespan a little bit before it burns out. So there's quite a lot you can do with the jet gun, and it's one of the more interesting weapons in Black Ops 6 Zombies, period. Now, before we get to our number one spot, I've got an honorable mention for you guys, okay? This one is pretty insane. This is going to be the LR762. This is one of the slowest firing sniper rifles, unpack-a-punched, and is not very good unupgraded. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably one of the worst weapons in the game if it's not pack-a-punched. However, when you do upgrade it, when I was talking about those specific quirks that you get later on, you know, just like the Mustang and Sally becoming akimbo eventually, and then getting explosive rounds, the same thing applies here. You can pretty much turn this into the Scavenger from Call of the Dead. However, instead of waiting an amount of time to blow up, it pretty much instantly explodes on impact, so you get an explosive sniper rifle. It is criminal, and of course you want to pair this with PhD Flopper, but this does amazing against special and elite enemies, and on top of that, because of its explosive capability, is pretty good for crowd control. Just, it's solid for general gameplay. It's pretty decent on high rounds. Now, I will say the only downside to this is it doesn't have the most impressive fire rate. So if you're just looking for something that just dumps out bullets, this unfortunately is not going to be the one. This is also pretty good in the Terminus boss fight, for example. It's also solid in the last step of Liberty Falls, weirdly enough. It's an actual glow up of a sniper rifle because it sucks unupgraded, but it's really good when pack-a-punch because of that specific quirk that it gets. So I didn't really know where to put it on this list, but I wanted to give it an honorable mention because it deserves to be somewhere, that's for sure. But finally, getting to our number one spot is my absolute favorite go-to weapon. This is the ASG shotgun, and I've been using them side by side, like this versus the Marine, and the ASG completely blows that one out of the water in pretty much every single category. This is the best gun in the game by far, in my opinion. This can do everything. It's great for crowd control, does amazing in boss fights, final steps of Easter eggs, and so on. I really hope this weapon doesn't get nerfed because there's not as many other viable options outside of this, but I don't know how this weapon is just literally like a mile above everything else in the game for the most part besides wonder weapons. I don't understand how that happened, but I think this is uncontested the best bullet gun in the game by far, and it's not even close. Recently, I've been experimenting with different builds of certain weapons and getting into more of the build crafting with perks and attachments and stuff like that. So I'm going to have a video soon about loadouts specifically and exactly what attachments you should build onto your weapon. So make sure to subscribe and stick around for that because it'll be coming very soon. But I just wanted to give you guys an overall top 10 best list of really good pack-a-punched weapons in this game because some of them are worth using and a lot of guns in this game are just really mediocre or just bad, to be honest, which I kind of like. I like the idea of having good and bad guns in a zombie game, but here are all of the good ones, in my opinion, to use right now. There will be more guns added throughout the season, but at the moment, these are certainly going to be some of the best. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for your time. Make sure to subscribe before you go. Leave a like on the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out, guys.